Hello, everyone. My name is Claire Rumor, and I'm co-director and a senior faculty member at the Shakti Shiva Academy. And I am so excited to be here with Marcia Baczynski, who, apart from being a longtime friend and colleague of mine, is an amazing speaker and educator and facilitator and a brand new author. Has a book coming out very soon, and she is going to be a guest teacher on our upcoming 9-month Sexual Awakening for Women course that starts in July. So she'll be having a fantastic bonus class with us. We're going to be talking about that a little bit today. But first, Marcia, please introduce yourself to us in our community. Share with us a little about your new book. And then a topic I really wanted us to dive into today, because I learned so much about it from you, is desire smuggling.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Marcia Baczynski, or Marcia B, because Baczynski is hard to spell and say. So Marcia B is fine. And yeah, all of the things Claire just said. And yeah, I love working with people around desire, around boundaries, about asking for what you want, figuring out what you want, and just kind of how to operate in the world in such a way where we can be generous, be kind, be open, and also be advocating for ourselves and our desires and our wants and our needs and our boundaries. So this is kind of my jam. And yeah, and I have a book coming out. I'm very excited, in January of 2022, called Creating Consent Culture, a Handbook for Educators. And it's built on my years of working with all of the things I mentioned before, because it turns out asking for what you want, setting boundaries, and negotiation, those are all the tools you need for healthy consensual interactions. So I'm delighted about that, and I'm sure we'll let folks know when that comes out in January.
Indeed.
Yeah, so desire smuggling. This is a term that I came up with to sort of well, let me back up a little bit. So when it comes to asking for what we want, most of the time I hear people say, I don't know what I want, or I have a really hard time asking for what I want. And there's a lot of reasons why we don't ask for what we want. And all of our specific stories and conditioning and what we were taught growing up about desire, there's very few of us that just were taught, like, your desire is good and healthy and welcome. Most of us internalized messages of, well, don't ask for too much, don't be too much, or don't make your partner think that they're not doing a good job, or, you know, fear of rejection, fear of being judged, fear of what people will think. Like, those are huge. Like, oh, you know, as a sex educator, one of the questions I get a lot, you know, from the get-go is, am I normal? As though normal exists. And the normal does exist. It's just really broad and very diverse. So people are very concerned. The subtext of that question of, am I normal, is like, am I going to fit in? Am I going to want the wrong thing? And in the face of rejection, judgment, you know, disconnection, you know, all of these fears, being told that, you know, you should just be happy with what you have, not wanting to rock the boat, not wanting to start a fight, not wanting your partner to feel bad, all of these things in the face of this massive list, which we'll be going into in the fall, we come up with strategies to get what we want, because desire is persistent. Desire does not go away. You can try to concrete over the things you want, and it, like a flower, like a dandelion pushing its way through the cracks, desire will find a way. And I don't mean that in like a metaphorical kind of way. If you think about it, desire really is our life force, because when we stop wanting anything, that's usually when we stop wanting to live, right? So wanting things is part of what keeps us going. And yet most of us, especially when it comes to sexual desire, we have a really complicated relationship with it. So we do all kinds of things. And all that whole umbrella of over all those things that we do, I call desire smuggling. And desire smuggling can be like pretty innocuous. Like one of my favorite ones that I still am totally doing all the time is I play options roulette, where I give you 3 things, 2 of which I'm fine with, but 1 of which I secretly want, but I don't want to admit that I want that one. So I'm going to let you choose, you know, like that's pretty innocuous. Hinting, flirting, you know, sending articles about the thing like, here's an article about polyamory. What do you think? You know, like
I definitely don't see myself in these examples.
Yeah. So these are all pretty innocuous things, but they don't necessarily get us what we want, right? And then there's kind of a middle category of things that are self-harming or harming to the relationship, where it's like we get passive aggressive, we make bargains in our head, like if they give me this, then I'll give them that. So we lose access to our generosity, and we become very tit for tat. You know, we judge other people who are getting the thing we want, as a way of kind of like being able to talk about it without ever owning the fact that we want it. You know, so there's those kinds of things. And then there's a third category that is like toxic and abusive, where we just take what we want, theft, rape, war, you know, all of those kinds of things. So we have this spectrum of things that we do. And obviously that third category, we want to excise that behavior from our lives. And that center category, you know, we may need to set boundaries around behavior. But I think it's also really worth looking at the behaviors that we do when we're desire smuggling, getting familiar with our own patterns of desire smuggling. You know, some people would call this like shadowy stuff, but I don't necessarily think it's bad. I mean, clearly some of these are like totally innocuous or even kind of cute, right? And then some of them are not so fabulous or self-harming, like judging yourself for wanting food or wanting sex is not.
But if we look closely, if we put the top
if
up,
you look underneath it, right? If you look underneath it, there's 2 things there. There's a desire, and then there's all of the things we were talking about before: the fear of judgment, the fear of loss of connection, the fear of loss of belonging, the you know, being told like that you were wrong and bad for wanting things. So the desire smuggling, I always say, is a clue. And you can have boundaries around the specific behaviors or expressions of desire smuggling. And it is helpful to look at yourself, to look at others through that lens. And it's so interesting once you have this lens to look at things, because you can look at somebody acting out, your partner, your kid, your friends, your president, and be like, you want something and you don't know how to get it.
And you're not telling me. Yeah.
You want something, you're not telling me. And there's a good, and I think this is the crucial piece, and there's a good reason why you're not telling me. You know, whether it's from our relationship, you know, maybe the case that I've done everything I can to make you feel safe, but I can't make you feel anything. And you have your own history of trauma or judgment or being bullied in middle school or whatever, or watching other people be bullied on reality shows. I mean, like, there's a lot of reasons why we have these fears. And I think bringing compassion to ourselves, both for the behaviors, which doesn't mean not setting boundaries. That's a really important point. You could still set boundaries, but having compassion for the behaviors and curiosity about what's going on under there. Like, what is it that's having you do this, right? And sometimes it's just straight up vulnerable. It's vulnerable to want things. It's vulnerable,
totally vulnerable
to not know if you're gonna get it. It's vulnerable to, like, even if you're like super well adjusted and, you know, teach this stuff for a living. I still run into this stuff like all the time. But the more you get into relationship with your own patterns of desire smuggling and your own, like, what your underlying fears are, you know, it starts to shift from like passive aggressive or judgmental or, you know, self-harm to, I'm going to hide under the covers while I say that and be really cute. Like, you're still doing a desire smuggling thing, but you can
becomes
move
more
those patterns over to that more innocuous. You can still have the vulnerability and the fears and all that, but the expression of it becomes less harmful and more innocuous.
Exactly. Till eventually we're not desire smuggling at all.
And ideally that's where we get to, where we're not desire smuggling at all, or you know, we can move in and out of it in a comfortable and easy way, where we're like, oh, I just caught myself desire smuggling. Let me be a little bit more direct with you about what I'm trying to. I think what I'm trying to say is I would really like to XYZ.
Exactly. And that's what I love about desire smuggling when I read your blog article and I've been learning about it from you, because it is such a piece of the asking for what you want.
Yeah.
Whole process. And I love that work that you've come up with, asking for what you want. And also your program, the Good Girl Recovery Program.
Yes.
And and to touch on those briefly, because we're just about out of time for right now. And I look forward to you touching more on these in the class coming up during Sexual Awakening for Women. But yeah, any final words to kind of wrap everything together you'd like to leave us with?
I'm really excited to be teaching in the fall. I'm really excited to dig into these concepts and related concepts some more. And I guess I would just say, anybody who's watching, like, if you've had some light bulb moments, my number one thing I would love for you to take away from this is just to have some compassion for yourself and some curiosity, and also for the people in your lives.
Absolutely. So we're excited, Marcia, we're going to be seeing more of you, not only on the Sexual Awakening for Women course, but also you are putting together a beautiful facilitator training program for us that we're going to launch next year in 2022. And you're going to be one of the facilitators.
Yes.
Teaching students how to facilitate in your very masterful way. So I'm excited that's happening, and we'll get to have more of you and see more of you. And so with that, thank you everyone for watching. Marcia will be with us in the fall, or rather in late 2021, because it'll be spring, summer for those in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yes.
She'll be a bonus teacher, guest teacher on Sexual Awakening for Women. So thanks so much, Marcia. It was awesome connecting with you today.
Thank you.